Hello, everyone. I am so thrilled that we have so much interest in our Zotero webinar, Zotero for Beginners. I've been doing this Zotero webinar for many years now, and this is the most registrants we've ever had. So I'm just very excited that so many people are interested, and I hope that this is really helpful for all of you. So I want to introduce myself to start out. My name is Kimberly Shoddick, and I am an assistant professor here at the University Libraries at Northern Illinois University. I'm also the student success librarian, so it's really my job to connect students with the resources that are going to help them succeed. And I think for many of you working on bigger research projects, Zotero is one of those tools that I think will help you succeed. If you are totally brand new to Zotero or have been using it but have some questions, then this is probably the session for you. All right, so here's the agenda. I'm going to give a very brief introduction to kind of what is Zotero, how to set it up, and then I'm going to go over how to add content from websites, how to add articles from databases, how to manually add items, and then I will touch briefly on how to create bibliographies using the Word plugin that Zotero offers. So to begin, I'm going to just briefly go over what are these tools and why should we use them. So reference managers or citation management or bibliographic management software are computer applications that organize research, and they organize those sources to generate bibliographies. It's a very kind of basic definition of those. They let you store your research in sort of like a personal database of your own, of the research that you've collected. They also can do things like help you organize notes around your research. They can let you create citations in multiple styles, and they can allow you to share and collaborate on research projects. So without reference management tools, I personally, before I started using Zotero, things were in different folders. I would lose citations. I would, find something great, like a great website, and then not remember where I had found it or what the information was. So really, essentially, this is a huge time saver. So this is going to save you time, and the earlier you can get started using it in your research process, the better off you're going to be. So we kind of went over the why. One thing that I really love about Zotero in particular, because there are many different reference management systems to choose from, but Zotero has been around since 2006, and it was developed by an independent nonprofit organization, and they have no financial interest in your data. Most of the other tools, if not all of the other tools that are available out there, are created by different companies that do have a financial interest in your data. And if you really look at their privacy policies, oftentimes they will sell your data to third-party companies or use it to, learn about their own customers in order to create products that they can market back to you. So just from sort of a privacy aspect, I really appreciate Zotero, and it's supported by a community of people who love it and use it. So one of the downsides is that you're not going to get the kind of customer support that you might get from a paid product, something created by like Elsevier, one of the big publishers or companies, where they have a team of customer support folks who can help you out. However, there are so many people that use Zotero, and many of those are librarians such as myself, that there is a very supportive community and message boards where you can get that support. But you can think of me as your personal Zotero support person while you are here at NIU. I am happy to try and troubleshoot any of the issues that you have, answer any questions. How you use Zotero will be different from case to case. So I oftentimes sit down with faculty and students and kind of look at how they're using it and how they can improve or what issues they're running into. If you go to zotero.org, you can click that download, and I think this is a screenshot of an older version of Zotero, but the newest Zotero will be on there. And you will also have the Zotero connector option. So depending on what browser you are accessing Zotero from to download it, it will also offer you this connector. This is important. This allows you to pull the data from websites and our databases. So install that connector as well. And we're going to move on to setting up your account. So you're going to create a Zotero account so that you can actually sync your account across multiple devices. This gives you access to your references no matter where you are. So it creates that web version for you as well, and then it can sync it up. So what you're going to do is you're going to start under Edit and go to Preferences.
Depending on the version of Zotero you have, it could be under Settings.
And then once you're in Preferences, you're going to click on Sync. It's those arrows kind of going in a circle. There, under Sync, you will have an option to set up your online Zotero account. If you have registered, you'll probably already have a username there. And if you don't remember the login info, you should be able to get that on the web version. All right, so we're going to move to a brief tour before we kind of figure out how to start adding things and how to configure all that, to just kind of give you the lay of the land, because all of the reference management systems are more or less laid out this same way, but I know that I found it overwhelming the first time that I used it. There's just a lot of text, a lot of information. Yours will look different if you've just downloaded it because you don't have anything yet. So you're probably looking at a much more empty screen, but once you start adding references, it's going to fill up. So on the left-hand side here, let me get my little laser pointer. On the left-hand side here, think of this as like a filing cabinet. So the filing cabinet itself is this My Library. That is the filing cabinet. And then all of these folders below it are the individual collections that you've created within that larger filing cabinet. So let's say you are working on a paper or a project. You might want to create a folder that has all of the references for that individual project. So here you see some different projects that I've worked on. Every reference in each of these folders will show up under this larger folder, My Library, because that's that large filing cabinet itself. But this is just a great way to sort of organize your thinking around different sources. You can also create subfolders. So if you are working on, let's say, a dissertation or a master's thesis, a really kind of bigger project, maybe you're writing a book, you can have one folder and then some subfolders below it with different sections. Or if you prefer, you can just, you can create a folder that has, chapter 1, chapter 2, and create those larger kind of first level folders. So that organization is up to you. You add folders by clicking on that add button up at the top.
In newer versions, this is called New Collection.
And then you can name the folder whatever you want. And then in the middle is all of the individual pieces of paper within those folders. So these are all of the references that I've added. Right now, I have it clicked on My Library. So it is showing everything that I've ever added. If I were to click on, again, Privacy, it's only going to show the items that I put in that Privacy folder. But here we have things like title, creator, and then this little paper clip here is for attachments. What is happening when you add a reference into Zotero is that it's looking for something called metadata. That's information about an item. So title, author, date, all of that stuff that you need for a citation, it's looking for that and pulling it in. If it happens to find full text, like a PDF, or if it's a website, then the full text is right there. It will also pull that in. So you basically have the full article or whatever it is that you're working on. Now, obviously that doesn't work for everything because let's say you are actually reading a physical book. It can't put that physical book in the folder. So it will be a little just the information, just the metadata. It won't have an attachment. You'll also notice that the icons are a little bit different for each of the items, and that's because they are different item types. It might be, so we get two things. There's these icons over on the left and the icons of the attachments on the right. There are different icons that represent things like web pages, PDFs, podcasts, YouTube videos, audio files, emails. So think there's just about any type of source that you might use, there's going to be an icon for that. Now, what's really wonderful is that with web pages, when you bring that information in, it actually takes a snapshot of the web page at that time. If you know anything about websites, it's that they change constantly. And especially in the age that we're living in, websites go up and down, information changes. So you have that little snapshot in time of when you accessed it, so you can see that information. So it's a really useful feature of using one of these. We are going to, again, go over using this to get information from websites as well as getting articles from databases. So you'll be able to see those icons pop up. On the right-hand side is the individual metadata for each item. So you can see here that I have this item selected. It is showing up in kind of this blue highlight. On the right-hand side is this metadata field where it has what type of thing is this? It's a journal article. Who are the authors? What's the volume, the issue, the page numbers? All of that stuff was automatically pulled in. And we're going to spend more time here, so stay tuned. We are not going to be talking about the notes field or the tags field at this session. That's going to be for the more advanced session. They're super great features, but we just won't have time to go into those today. So adding a source from a website, I think, is one of the more straightforward items, but yet one of the more complicated ones, because this is, again, a machine looking for all of that metadata on a website. And machines are not humans, they are imperfect. So in my example here, I have this little icon that is telling me this is a website. And this is on my web browser now. So I've opened up a web browser. I've done some research on student success. I find a website that I want to add to my references. I'm going to click on that little icon, and that is the Zotero connector that's going to add the reference into my library. You can see that right now it says it's adding it to my library. If you wanted to put that in a specific project that you're working on, let's say I'm doing this student success project. When you've clicked on this and added it, you can actually click on this drop down and change which folder it's going into. So my library is like, we're just putting it in the filing cabinet. We're not going to put it in a folder. We're just throwing it in the whole filing cabinet. You can change that and specify which folder you want to put it into. The nice thing is, once you've specified that once, it knows what project you're working on. So any subsequent ones, it's going to put in that same folder. So that saves you a little time. And you can see that it's also saved the snapshot of the website. So all I did was click on that little icon when I'm on the website that I want to add. Once I've done that, it has imported that citation into Zotero. Important to note that Zotero has to be open and running in order for this to work. If you were, doing your research and you clicked on this and Zotero wasn't already open, it will remind you. It'll say, hey, I don't see Zotero. Can you open that, please? Something like that. Open up Zotero, push it again, and it'll pop right in. So here it is showing up in the filing cabinet on the left here. And I've kind of condensed things down just so you can see the metadata. it has pulled in what it could find on the web page. But notice there are a couple of things missing here. It did not find an author. And if I go back, I see an author name. So this is an example of machines are imperfect. It did its best, but for whatever reason, didn't see that author. So you're going to have to edit this metadata, especially for websites, almost every time you import something. So when I import a website, the first thing I look at is title. Did it find the correct title? Author. Did it find an author? In some cases, you might not find an author on a website. It might be what we call a corporate author. So the American Red Cross, for instance, maybe they've published an article as the American Red Cross. That would be considered a corporate author. So you could click in this field and type in the name of the individual or the name of the corporation and add that metadata yourself. If there are multiple authors, which is sometimes the case, you can add this little plus button and it will add in additional author fields for you to put in as many authors as you need. The next thing to look at is, did it get the website title correctly? Did it find a date? In some cases, in this case, there is a date here, but in some cases you might not find a date. If you can't find the information on the website, it's okay to leave it blank because that information wasn't there. So if you're thinking about citations, you may have seen ND in a citation, no date. That's because there was no date available. You don't have that information, so it will do that for you. So make sure that you are looking though at the name and the date. Those are the two fields that I think Zotero and all of the reference management systems struggle finding the most for some reason. But here's the example of I've found the author's name on the actual website. I've clicked into the author field on here, and I can just type in the last name, comma, first name, and then add any authors if there are additional authors. There is one tip that I want to give to the APA folks. I honestly, I know APA and I've forgotten all my other citation styles, so I don't know if this applies to other folks. But you'll notice that when you import things into Zotero, it typically capitalizes every word, like in this example. And APA style, at least, it is not supposed to be all caps like that. It is supposed to be in sentence case where the first word is capitalized, the other words, unless if they're proper nouns, or if it's the first word after this colon here, should be lowercase. So one little hack for that is you can actually right click in the title field here, and Zotero will give you the option to put it in sentence case. So if you right click and select sentence case, it will help you out. One thing that I will point out is that it puts everything in lowercase except for the first letter. So you will have to, if there's a colon, which, you know, us academics love colons, you'll have to go ahead and capitalize that first word or any proper nouns. It doesn't recognize proper nouns, but it does. Me personally saves me a lot of time. All right, I am going to move on to adding articles from our NIU libraries search. If you were to instead search this NIU libraries and beyond, then that is going to include books and articles that you might need to request and might take a few days for you to get access to. So that's the only difference really between the two. Everything in here you should have immediate access to. So here's a screenshot of what that looks like. This is on our library website. You'll see this search bar come up. It's called the NIU Library Search, and it defaults to searching NIU libraries. Again, books, articles, videos, and more that we have access to immediately. So go ahead and put some search terms in. If you can't think of any search terms, you are welcome to use mine. I have just for this sample, autism and technology, and click on this magnifying glass. This is going to search for all those materials that we have access to related to your keywords. All right, so I have a list of sources that popped up. Yours might look a little different. And this first one that I have is an article. The article is Advancing Autism Technology. It is a peer-reviewed article. And you can see here some of that metadata, you know, the volume, issue, year, page numbers, authors, all of that stuff is in this record. But you don't want to add it at this point because right now we just have a list of sources that you found. You have to actually go to this individual source in order to add it. So to get to this individual source, I'm going to click this Available Online button or link, and it will show me all of the options that we have at our library to get the full text of this article. I'm going to use this first one, Academic Search Complete. So I'm going to click on that and it should take you to that individual article. But after you've clicked on the link under View Online for your article, it should pop up with the individual article. You'll notice that here it gave me a PDF of the full text. And this is all in a web browser. So what we can do is you can actually, once you've opened up the full text PDF here, that Zotero connector will pop up and you can click on that PDF and it will add the full article into your Zotero database along with that metadata. So I've clicked on the Zotero connector on that PDF image there, and it has popped it into my Zotero library. So on the left here, you see, here's the item, and then on the right, here's all the metadata. And you'll probably notice that it did a much better job at finding the metadata than it did on a website. That is because this is much more standardized in academic publishing, so it's just easier for the system to find that information. So luckily for me, it did find the title, it found the authors, it even put the title in the correct APA sentence case that I want it to be in. So it doesn't look like I actually needed to make any corrections, but always double check and make sure that it did it correctly. You still need to know your citation style to make sure that it is displaying in the right way. So sometimes depending on the article and the database and all of that, it might actually download instead of the one that I have here. It's actually showing you in like a website. The PDF is embedded. It's opening it up on this website here, but it may have actually downloaded, and then once you open it up, it's in Adobe on your local computer, and it's not actually like a web viewer version. If that's the case, then you can go to your downloads folder. Okay, I'm going to pop out of this real quick and share my screen. Okay, so let's say I have this. This is in my downloads folder. I have this PDF that's downloaded. I can actually click it and copy it over to whatever folder. Let's say I want to put it in, I don't know, I'll put it in this folder. Now it has actually popped this PDF into the folder here. Here's the PDF. This is actually a report on childcare, and I can try and create metadata for this item. So it put the PDF in here, and now I need to I'm going to create a parent item. And in some cases, let's say there's a DOI, maybe it was an article, and a DOI is basically like an address for each individual article has its own special identifier. So if you have that, you can put that in. If you can't find that information, then you can click this manual entry. You can type in all of that information manually. But a lot of times it will just pop up from the PDF. So again, I opened my download folder and I clicked and I actually dragged that PDF over to the folder I wanted it to go in. That's also what you'll do if, let's say, a colleague or a professor or somebody sends you a PDF, or maybe you're in a class and you have some readings to download. If you want to upload them into Zotero, you can just click and drag them that way as well. So again, let's say you're reading a book and you want to add it to one of your projects. You're going to click on, it looks probably a little different, but you're going to click on this plus button. It should be kind of in the middle pane, and it should be like a little page with a plus. And then you can select what type of resource it is. So in this case, in my example, I'm selecting a book, but you could select any of these things. Let's say you have a printed out journal article that you got from somebody. You could click journal article, and depending on what you choose from here, it will give you different fields to enter because, of course, with a book, we have a title, an author, a publisher, and all of that. But something like a video, we're going to have a director. So the information, the metadata fields will change depending on what you pick from this manual entry field. But for this example, I've picked book, and you will just manually type in the metadata that you need. You don't have to type in every single piece of metadata, but you need to know for your citation style. So let's say APA, I know that I don't need to put in the name of the series. If it's part of a series, APA doesn't need that. So I don't have to put that information in. So just put in the information that's required by your citation style. Oftentimes that's going to be title, author, date, page numbers, publisher, all of that information. And I have one last example that I'm going to just briefly show you. I'll go much more into detail in the advanced session on this, but it is the Zotero plugin for Word. So now that you have all of these wonderful sources compiled into your Zotero library, let's say you want to actually use them to write a paper. Well, let's say you're ready to write your paper and or your project, whatever you're working on. When you've downloaded Zotero, it should have downloaded the Word plugin as well for Zotero. So when you open up Microsoft Word, you should see this little Zotero thing pop up on your ribbon in Word. That will give you some options here. So I've clicked on Zotero, and you'll see that I can now add a citation. So you'll be typing your paper. Let's say I have paraphrased something that I want to cite, and it's time to add that in-text citation. I'm going to click Add, Edit Citation, and it's going to give me this little search bar that will allow me to search my entire Zotero library. So I know that, the paraphrase I'm using is from a certain article. I can type in anything related to the article, the author, the title of the article, and it will pop up from my library. And I'm going to select, in this case, I think I select this one, and it will automatically input the in-text citation based on whatever that preferred citation style is. And you can change that preferred citation style under document preferences here. So if you are noticing it's coming in as APA, but you actually want it to be Chicago, you can go and change that right there. The beautiful thing about doing this, about using that cite feature and doing those in-text citations for things like paraphrases and quotations, is that once you've done a lot of citing, so I just threw in a couple citations just as examples, and you're ready for that works cited or references page, it will automatically generate a list of those references based on what you've used up here. So again, if you've added citations individually as you're writing those in-text citations and you're done, at the end, you will just click Add Bibliography, and anything that was cited in text will appear. If you go back and edit this, and let's say you delete this sentence and you're no longer using that source, all you need to do is refresh the document and it will remove it from your works cited page. So those two are connected, and everything is connected back to your Zotero library. In a case of, let's say I notice, you know what, this person's name is spelled wrong. I go back to my Zotero library, I update that metadata, and then I click refresh. It will update it throughout my entire paper. I thank you for joining me. I'm just really excited to see all this interest in Zotero. And again, I hope it was useful.
For individualized help using Zotero, reach out to your subject specialist librarian or to me at kshotic@niu.edu.